We all know, as wedding professionals, how important it is to be networking and connecting inside our industry. Are you going to be at Wedcon this year in November? Come and join us for a day of networking with the best inside the industry, a day of amazing education with 5 global renowned industry speakers, me and Roxy to be able to cast an eye over your business, and a room full of other like-minded wedding professionals for a day of learning, education, and a day where we are going to look after you inside your business. To get your hands on one of the few remaining tickets, check out the link inside the show notes, and we hope to see you there. Hi, welcome back to this week's episode of the podcast. I'm flying solo today. I've not got Roxy with me, but I am inviting a wonderful guest, Heidi, on, and Heidi has got up especially for us. Heidi contacted us from all the way over in San Diego in the US. And actually, I've been following you for a little while. I think we followed each other on Instagram for a little while, haven't we? And then reached out and was like, oh, I'd love to come and chat to you guys on the podcast. It's really great to introduce you. You've got a business over in the US called Evolve Your Wedding Business. So tell our lovely listeners today what it is you do, Heidi.
Yeah, so for the past 11 years now, I have been working with wedding professionals of all different kinds to help them build businesses that give them the freedom that they want, financial freedom, but also time freedom, because it's really easy for wedding businesses to suck your life up and eat it whole.
Exactly. We always say, I think wedding pros, especially in the UK, and I bet this is the same in the US as well. And the wedding industry in the US is so big. I didn't realize how big it is that we wear burnout as a badge of honor, and we get so invested with our clients. It's an emotional time for our clients, and we carry a lot of that responsibility and emotion on our shoulders. So yeah, I love that you're encouraging wedding pros to step away from that and put some strategies in place to help them cope.
Yeah, it's really important to me that you not just build a financially successful business, because who cares if you have a super profitable business if you have no time to go be with your family, to go enjoy yourself, to go on who cares at that point?
Yeah, and that's it. And I think this is something that I did and had a little bit of a reset with us and our business kind of post-pandemic really. And I was like, oh, you know what? I want to move away from this wanting to build this really big business. Pre-pandemic, we were doing a lot of events on a global scale. And then the pandemic struck and it gave me that time to just really reflect. And I was like, wow, actually, I want a small, mighty business. I want to be able to make impact, but actually not have to work on 2 different time zones and never get any sleep. And a lot of businesses, they step away from the 9 till 5 and end up working 9 till 9. And it's just not what we want to be doing.
Yeah, it's like you become the worst boss you've ever had, because all of a sudden, you have a million little bosses and you're letting them pull you in every which direction. And it's something I see across the spectrum of different types of wedding professionals, different countries, different experience levels. It is one of those things that is a constant because we care. We want to give our clients the best. And a lot of times that results in giving them too much and harming ourselves.
Yeah, and just giving them everything. And I was listening to a podcast the other day from Alan Berg. I'm sure you've heard of Alan, right? He does a lot in the US as well. And he was like, if you're, say, 50% if somebody else is 100%, then that's okay. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a really interesting topic. And your client doesn't really know what, as long as you're fulfilling their expectations and they're happy with the brief, they're happy at the end of the day, and they feel like you've gone above and beyond for them, maybe with something that you've surprised them with, or a little bit of surprise and delight, or a little gift or a thank you, then you've done your job. And yeah, I definitely struggle with that. I have a little bit of perfectionism mode in me, and I'm really trying so hard to step away from that this year.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is an awareness thing, like being aware that you are overcompensating in some way for something, or being aware that for a lot of us, socially, we are taught that working hard is the goal. Work hard, be busy. When someone asks how you are, so many times it's, oh, busy. That's a really weird response to that question. But it just goes to show that's how we wear that. That is like honorable to us. But when you start a business, you shift from this job mentality of you get paid by the number of hours something takes you. So in a lot of instances, it's better off for you to take longer on something. They don't feel like they can replace you in like a part-time capacity. But in your own business, you have to focus on what is the ROI? What is the return on investment of your time? Is that hour you're spending on whatever it is it doing anything for you? Is it worth it? Is it really where the CEO of the business should be spending time? And I was just having a conversation with a floral designer the other day who said she had the realization that she's the CEO of this business. Her minimum is like $10,000 and she's spending her time washing out buckets.
Yeah.
Probably not the best use of the CEO's time.
This is it. And I think this is a lot of us struggle with this. And someone said something to me a long time ago that you can be a busy fool. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, is this driving me to where I want to be in my business? And I know a lot of wedding businesses struggle with this, and it's something I've struggled with myself, outsourcing, finding reliable people, or even just being able to let go, especially when you're someone that suffers with perfection road syndrome. You really struggle with that letting go. Like today, I've been swamped all on things I wasn't actually meant to be doing today, but we've been swamped on sales calls today, and that is something that I need to be doing. Like that, hey, I need to be doing that. So then actually, I could have outsourced the stuff that was on my to-do list today. But that's what you're here to talk to us about today, aren't you? How to get more time back as wedding business owners so that we can stop burning out doing all of the things. So you're here to really dig into this today and to help us know how we can get that, like, any time back really inside of our businesses. So Heidi, what do you think really is the key to this?
I think the first really big key is awareness. And one of the simplest, and it sounds dumb, but most valuable things you can do for yourself is actually track your time for the week. Just look to see, what are you doing all day? What are you spending time on? You can do that on paper. You can do that in a spreadsheet. You can use a timer app. Toggle is a really popular one. And just look at, over the course of a week, how many hours go to these different areas of your business. Now, this work, like I was saying with the floral designer, those buckets got to get cleaned. It has to happen. But if you find you're spending several hours doing that, how much could you have made if you spent those hours on, like you were saying, like sales calls? Oh my God, that could have been huge for the business. You chose to spend those hours elsewhere. So your time's a limited resource. You have to be aware of how you're allocating it. It's the same thing as when you start to become really aware of like your budget, you see just how much you're spending on stupid stuff. You see the same thing happen with your time.
And I bet as well, actually, when people sit down and actually track their time, I bet they think, oh my gosh, I spend so much time doing this, or oh, I'm hardly ever in my emails. And actually, I bet when you're faced with that data in front of you, you're like, oh, actually, is that how long I spend in my email, or doing the stuff that actually isn't even making me any money? And I bet that's a really like great first step, actually, to bring that awareness to people.
Yeah, and it's that thing like, oh, it's just 15 minutes. Oh, it's just a half hour. But when you look at that across a week, you extrapolate that to a year, to your whole career, that is a huge amount of time that you are spending on activities that are not doing anything for you. And in many cases, maybe getting in your way, because what you are unconsciously optimizing for is hustle instead of return on investment.
Yeah, and this is one thing we actually really try and stay away from, this hustle. And I think you can be busy being busy. So then, oh, got to answer these emails. Oh, let me jump over to do this. Especially those people that kind of flip between tasks. I think I read a book, Traction, a few years ago, and it said go and see emails once or twice a day. And that's now what I try and do. Today was a little bit different because we had people booking calls in, but I try to be like, I'm there for 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes for an afternoon. Anything that comes in after I've checked the afternoon waits until the next day. And you know what? It's okay. And something I speak to our listeners about on the podcast quite a lot, and I talk to Roxy about, is that nothing is urgent. Like we can step away and think, I can reply to that tomorrow. It doesn't need to be now. But
Yeah.
a lot of web posts fit into that, don't they? Where they think, oh, if I'm not the first person to reply to this client, I'm going to lose the booking.
And there are ways to make that happen with automation so that you don't have to be the one at 9 p.m. sitting on your couch interrupting the movie you're watching with your partner because you need to respond to this right now. Like, you can utilize tools to make it possible for you to get back to them and get them the information that they need without it completely taking over your life. And I really like, what you were describing there. There are studies that show when we jump between tasks, what happens in our brain is called context switching. And the early studies showed it took about 13 minutes to get back up to full speed, full capacity. The newer studies are showing it's closer to like 25 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So you are working at like half efficiency so much of the day. And really in 8 hours, you're getting what you could have gotten done in 2 really focused hours done.
Yeah, and I love that you said the word focus there, because this is what I've tried to do this year. Be a lot more focused so that when I do something, I'm actually stuck on that task. And then something happened last week and I was like, oh no, God, all my browser tabs closed, like all 30 of them shut down and I couldn't get them back. And then I was like, you know what? This week, I'm just going to try and have 2 open. So sometimes I need like something in the background running, or if I'm doing an invoice, I need to have 2 open at the same time. And you know what? It's worked for me. Whatever got lost, and it obviously wasn't important because I haven't thought about it this week.
That's hilarious. That's a really good point. We see them, and I'm guilty of this too, and you jump between them, but that's why sitting down and actually planning your time is so important. And the way I like to look at it as, you have to be 2 people in your business. You have to be the CEO, you have to be the worker bee. It's just the weird way it is. And a lot of us don't set any CEO time. We just work, and it's like digging a ditch with a teaspoon. Yeah, it's hard. You're going to sweat, but are you getting anywhere? And is that the wisest use? So I really like to encourage people to set aside some CEO time for themselves to plan out, actually, what am I going to accomplish this week? What are the important things that I need to do? And when I say important, I don't mean urgent. Important as in, these are connected to my goals. These are things that if I do, will get me closer to my goals. And then you can metaphorically hand off the work order to the worker bee version of you, who can just go and execute it and stay focused on it, because you know that you've made intentional decisions. And I'm going to be realistic. It's not like you won't have distractions. They absolutely happen. We have to be aware of how we get distracted, how we can limit it. Some things need to distract us, like that you just have to address certain things now. But like you said, that's not everything. And we treat everything like it's on fire sometimes. And that's what pulls us away from being able to accomplish anything intentionally.
Yeah, and I guess also be productive, because if you're like, and what you just said there about how like unproductive splitting between different things can be, totally makes sense. As to like, I do definitely feel that now I try and be a lot more kind of streamlined about things, and I'm like, I'm in the emails now for an hour, or this is what I'm now going to be doing for a full hour. Like today, we've decided we could have invoiced people as we've gone, and we've gone, no, do you know what, we're making a list of everyone that wants to like jump in, and we're going to invoice them at the end of the day. These are the people that we need to chase. We're going to chase those tomorrow at this time, and it just makes it such better use of our time. time. Way better. So how do people decide what are the CEO tasks and what are the worker bee tasks in their business?
So CEO tasks are higher level. It's deciding what you're going to work on, any planning, any decision making at a high level, how you're going to market. Those are CEO level decisions. And then once a week, I love to just have a CEO date. It can be like 15 minutes to just check in and see, okay, where am I at? How are things going? What's going well? What's not going well? What do I need to change? Because it's really easy to just put your head down and work, and you are way off course from where you wanted to be because you really never looked up and checked the map, essentially, to see that you're going in the direction that you actually want to be going in. So something as simple as checking in with yourself that way, sitting down, planning, okay, what am I going to do this week? Something we do in my membership is we do 90-day planning where we say, okay, this is what I want to accomplish in the next 90 days. This is how I'm going to assign it. This needs to get done in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And you can slot into your calendar, okay, these are the things that are really important for me to accomplish in order to move that goal forward. And then once you have that plan, you can step out of that role and just execute.
Yeah, and then get to that kind of worker bee mode in terms of all the stuff that you wanted to do. I love that as well. And this is one of the things that I wish I'd done so much sooner in my business, which was invest in coaching. And one of the things that I find most beneficial about the coaching that I'm involved in and the coaches that I pay is that accountability. So that, you know, when I say this is what I want to get achieved this month or this week, usually we set monthly goals and then some big OKRs, like big over like key objectives for the whole year. But then having that accountability where I think I said I was going to get that done in 6 days, 90 days, whatever, that's what I'm going to do. And those are the tasks actually that drive you forward, because exactly what you say, like we can all end up being busy and then actually you're like, I'm still making the same amount of money, I'm still not moving things forward, I'm taking the same amount of bookings, I'm just doing the same kind of routine over and over again. But what I've personally loved, and actually I so wish I'd have done it sooner, I'd taken that kind of leap and jumped in sooner, is having that accountability. And it awakened a bit of competitiveness in me, more for like with myself actually, as to okay, I said I was going to get that done, I'm going to get it done. And then also, Heidi, I don't know about you, is actually being able to have somebody to say to you, no, this is where your direction needs to be. We have a client, and bless him, he's so excited and really wants to do some amazing things with his business. And you ask him what his goals are, and he like for the next 30 days, and he reels off 40 things. And we're like, whoa, let's just think about one. Like, what's the one thing we're going to get achieved here in the next? And actually having that somebody, or even having that talk with yourself, as to actually what's the important thing that's going to move me forward here.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting mindset shift when you look at, okay, is this serving me? Is this what I need to be doing? And you can train yourself to pull yourself out, because absolutely, I get distracted. I go down rabbit holes. I'm a human being, and I talk about this all the time, but I've gotten really good at asking myself, is this what I should be doing right now? Is this the most important thing I can be doing with my time right now? And then yanking myself out of it, like 15 minutes in, 30 minutes in, instead of a whole day down that rabbit hole. And that is just, it's a muscle memory thing that you just have to develop. I've had some clients that will set timers for themselves to just check in. Okay, am I working on the thing I'm supposed to be working on right now? Cool, I am, continue. If not, course correct. And I think sometimes when we get off task, it's easy to just be like, oh, I just get distracted. That's just the way it is. But I think it's more valuable to look at, okay, what happened? What specifically happened? What pulled you away? And how can we mitigate that? Because I feel like running a business is just like tricking your brain constantly. You just have to put these various safeguards in place to keep you from your personal ways of distracting yourself and getting off track. And if you find yourself getting pulled into email over and over again, okay, are there notifications we can turn off? Can we set some batches in your calendar so that you feel comfortable that, yes, I will get to that, and I will get to that at 4:00. And that's the time I'm going to get to that. And again, that's another one of those things it's a muscle you have to build. So I think it is important to be accepting of the fact that you're not going to be perfect, and you will never be perfect, and you will just continually get better and better. And that alone is fantastic, because if you can make progress toward keeping yourself out of burning out, that is going to dramatically reduce the amount of times that actually happens to you. Yeah, it may still happen, and learning how to recover, learning how to pull yourself back from it is just as important as learning how to prevent it and not getting on yourself too much about it.
Yeah, I think as business owners, it's all these different hats that we have to wear. But yeah, we're notoriously like really tough on ourselves about things.
Yes.
Hold ourselves at the highest typical standard at all. So you said about tracking your time, differentiating between CEO tasks and kind of worker tasks. What else can you give us that's going to help us stay away from burnout? It was Mental Health Awareness Week last week in the UK, so we spoke a lot about not burning out and keeping your mental health in good check. And I know that this has been a topic that's been in the news over the last few years, rightly, absolutely rightly. But I know as business owners, and we spoke about this last week on our pod actually, about how anxiety and burnout doesn't need to come as part of our job descriptions. And I think quite often people will say, oh yeah, it just comes with the job. And we were trying to say, look, we want to recognize that doesn't have to be the normal, and to be able to say sometimes, yeah, things are going to be tough and I'm going to have to get my head down, I'm going to have to work, and wedding season's coming up and I'm going to have a tough few months. But after that, I'm going to book a holiday, I'm going to have 2 weeks off, and be able to have these things in your business where you can step away totally and be able to just be away from everything for a week. So what's your kind of thoughts on burnout, Heidi, and especially in this industry that we work in, and how we can definitely avoid getting there?
Yeah, I agree with you that we tend to make excuses because it's easier to make excuses than to make changes, let's be honest. But if your job continually burns you out, I'm sorry, that's unacceptable. Like, we should uproot the system and revolt if that's what it's going to be like. That is absolutely unacceptable for human beings to have to go through that on a regular basis. Two things that have really helped me manage that and that have helped me manage anxiety are batching things and making sure that my big rocks go on the calendar first. Batching things is what you described about your email. It's giving a place on your calendar where you're going to do all the like things, all of those invoices, all of those follow-ups, all of those timelines. Like, you're going to sit down and do those in a particular batch. That has a lot of benefits. The anxiety reducing benefit is that it has a place. It's on your calendar. You know it's going to get done. So even though you're not doing it right now, you know that Thursday afternoon, that's what you're going to be doing. So you can, I know it really helps me. So rest assured knowing like it has a home, it's going to get done. That's where it lives.
Removing that brain space. Quite often I like
Yeah.
to, and that's what I like to do when I outsource. So when I outsource, I ask a lot of questions. I want to make sure that they're going to be perfect to work with me. And then I think, you think about that now, so I don't need to think about it. And I remove it, like I empty the recycling bin in my brain, and I'm like, I don't need to think about that now. That's what I pay you to do.
Yeah.
Like, when it's on your calendar, you can think, I'm thinking about that Thursday.
Yeah. And sometimes my husband's like, oh, what do you have going on this day? I'm like, I have no idea. I have to consult my calendar. I have no clue what's going on that day, because I'm not trying to store that information, because that makes me feel anxious. getting it out of my head and knowing that my calendar is going to remind me and my calendar is going to guide me, and I have an external source of truth to rely on is really helpful for me. And then the other piece of that is making sure your big rocks are in the calendar. So these are things like your holidays. So often we're like, oh, when I get time. No, you will never get time. You have to make time. You have to carve it out. You have to put it on your calendar now. I just booked a trip to the UK at the end of August.
Nice.
And you better believe that like the days before that, the days after that in my calendar are already booked. They are already off. I do not want to be in a situation, because I've gone back and forth many times. I know what the jet lag is like, that, you know, I'm going to have a call the day I get back. Like, oh my God, no, absolutely not. So I am carving out that time long before anybody can possibly take it. And it's funny that you said earlier that you feel like it brings out your competitive side. I feel like this kind of looking at your time in this way brings out like the competitive, the mama bear in me, like, no, that's mine.
Yeah.
This is my time and nobody's going to take it from me.
Oh, that's great. What are you in the UK to do? What are you over here for?
My husband's family is, yeah, I actually lived in Cambridgeshire for 6 years.
Okay, nice part of the UK. So yeah, you're very familiar with it.
Yeah, so 2 of our friends are getting married, so we're coming back. It should be fun.
Lovely. So a nice rest for you. That would be
Yes.
nice. Yeah, no, I really loved these tips. So I know that you've got a challenge coming up. I heard it on your podcast last week. So tell us a little bit more about that. So if web pros is sitting at home thinking, yeah, I'm somebody that flits, and absolutely, I still do it now, and definitely I have that check with myself. Or I'll fall into an Instagram doom scroll where I'm just like, oh, look at this lovely dress from Zara, look at this lovely dress from Zara.
Yeah.
And I try to now be like, I'll keep that for just before bed or for kind of 10 minutes in the morning, and try and be productive when I'm at work. Yeah, if web pros are sitting at home thinking, you know what, I work 8-hour days, and sometimes at the end of the day I'm like, what did I even get done today, or what have I even done? How can they get involved with your free challenge? You're saying that you're going to give people, what is it, like a whole day back or something?
Yeah, so the way we're doing this, it's a challenge to get 5 hours back a week, which results in 11 days a year. And we're using content in my membership, the Wedding Business Collective, but to make it super accessible, we're allowing people to join that membership for $1.
Oh, wow.
For 30 days, you can join in this challenge. And in this time, you will be able to recover the time to be able to start taking this strategic time, start sitting down and being like, okay, what am I doing with my marketing? What's the most strategic, most direct path to getting the clients that I want, and actually mapping things out. What I find is people are like, I don't have the time. So we're going to make the time. We're going to have some accountability. We're going to work together. We're going to make the time. And that is running from June 19th to the 30th. I'll set up a link for your listeners. They can go to theweddingbusinesscollective.com/wedpro. And I'll have a video there about the challenge and then everything that they're getting in the membership. And like I said, they can join for $1 and get access to everything in the membership for that first month. If they want to remain, cool. If not, they can cancel in a couple of clicks. But if you participate in this challenge, if you actually do the work, and we are adding in some accountability where, you know, you can submit the work to be eligible to win a prize, that you will get at least 5 hours of your time back. And the time that you are spending will become so much more intentional.
And that sounds amazing. Like some of the things that we do, like we run a content membership, and we're like, you know, this can give you X amount of hours back. Because do you think any kind of time I look at return on investment in business, I'm looking, can this make me money, or is this going to save me time? And time is something we don't have. And you said that before, like there is no more time. Like we have to be like masters of our own time with this. So yeah, getting 5 hours a week back Amazing, amazing. So we'll get the details from you, Heidi, and we'll pop those into the show notes so you can go and grab and take advantage of everything. And there's other stuff inside the Wedding Business Collective as well, isn't there? They're like little micro trainings on all sorts of areas of running a business. And you get guests in quite a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I love to bring guests in. I love training, as it's my favorite thing. Teaching and seeing people like have that aha moment and go execute something I love. And I love that about all the trainings I've created, but I will be the first one to say, I'm not an expert on SEO. I'm not an expert on all these different things. I'm an expert on the things I'm an expert on. And I love tapping friends in the industry to be like, hey, will you come do a workshop about whatever it is they're an expert on for our members so that they can get the benefits of that.
No, that's great. And that allows you to be more of an expert in the thing you're an expert in as well.
Yeah, I get to focus. Imagine that.
Okay, so what we like to end our pod on when we've got guests on is like, what's the one piece of advice that you would give our listeners when it comes to growing their wedding business?
That is a really good question. I would say try to adopt a mindset of intentionality to everything that you do. If you're doing something and you don't know why you're doing it, immediately stop. That helps you pull yourself back. If you are doing something and you realize the reason you're doing it is because you feel inadequate, you feel like you're not doing enough for this client, immediately stop, pull yourself back. And making sure that the marketing that you're doing, that everything that you're doing in your business is intentional. And when I say that, just that there's a reason behind it, there's a purpose, and that you're not just spinning your wheels because you feel uncomfortable not. Because that is the thing that leads to burnout. That's the busy being busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I would do. Gosh, spoken about this a few times. So I would come home and get the laptop out at 10 o'clock and sit on the laptop till 2 a.m. because I had staff, and I thought, I've got to be doing this. I've got to be tinkering my website. I've got to be uploading a blog at 2 a.m. because I've not managed to do it this week. And my God, I bet 90% of that work did not matter at all. No, that's amazing advice. Thank you so much, Heidi. We'll get the information in to our show notes so people can join that challenge and check you out. You've also got a podcast as well, so quickly tell people about that and where they can find that.
Yeah, my podcast is called the Evolve Your Wedding Business Podcast. The main podcast page is evolveyourweddingbusiness.com/podcast. You can find it on all of the different podcast platforms. And really the focus of that podcast is on the business side of weddings. So we talk all things marketing and sales and money and pricing and all the things that we didn't start this business to do, but we have to learn how to get good at.
No, that's great. And this is what we always say in the wedding industry. You might have a talent for like photography or design or planning, you're really organized or whatever, but actually that business side is the stuff that, you know, really is what's going to get you to doing the things that you love and get to do that talent. So yeah, thank you so much for reaching out and for joining us on our podcast today. It's been amazing. We'll have to get you back on in the future because I know there's loads we can talk to you about. And yeah, guys, definitely go and check out Heidi and some of the places that she's mentioned. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.